All right, hey guys, we're here with our very special guest, my former high school coach, Coach Bryan Clouse. He's the head coach at Harrison still. Coach Clouse, how are we doing today?
Doing great. I'm really excited to be on with you guys this evening.
Yeah, we're really happy to have you. I think we'll start out with the podcast today asking a couple questions about, what got you into soccer, and maybe talk about you as a youngster, little Bryan Clouse running around. How did you get into soccer?
That seems like such a long time ago, Matt. I started out playing the game when I was 6 years old and in first grade. Um, I remember my first coach. His name was Laszlo Kovac, and he was Hungarian. And it was very difficult to understand him. He had a very hard accent. But my memories growing up and being coached by him were quite fond. And I just, he made it enjoyable for me. And that's where my passion for soccer first started, and it grew. And he had a son on the team, and we went to the same school, and we probably had a group of about 10 or 11 guys that every single day for recess, we were on the same team as well for the rec league here locally. And we played all the time, every single day at school, all the time on the weekend, at least 2 or 3 practices a week. He just made it fun, and he really taught us the technical skills of the game. And he was really my coach all the way up until my sophomore year of high school. So, as I got older, I started to get involved with more competitive soccer. It started really probably my freshman year of high school. Started playing a lot of travel soccer, and his older son Dennis Kovac took over my junior year of high school, and that's when we won a sectional and a regional. Now, it wasn't classed at that time. That was many moons ago, it seems like. We won't say exactly how many years ago, but it was my junior year was very memorable, and I played alongside those same guys that we played all the time together growing up. So, and then my senior year, another guy came in by the name of Jason Huber, and he was an alumni from the high school there at Harrison, and it was just awesome. The transition was great, and I learned a lot from him. But I tell you what, the one thing that I feel like I really grew as a soccer player, from playing travel soccer between my junior and senior years of high school, and then going on, I only played 1 year of college soccer at Huntington up north, up in northern Indiana, close to Fort Wayne. But I felt like I learned the game very well, just from a tactical standpoint. And then, I wouldn't advise other kids to do it the way I did. I didn't go with the interest of so much academically. So my focus wasn't there. So, unfortunate, but I stopped playing after 1 year. I started and played lots of minutes. It just wasn't a good fit for me at that time. And I don't think, mature enough to handle going to college and all that freedom that first year. So I came back here to Lafayette and got started up with the family business. And I was able to do that and also coach. I began to coach. So, I was like, I wanted to be around it. I missed it dearly. That was one aspect of my life that was really positive and I just loved. So I decided to go ahead and coach. So I started coaching the junior varsity at my alma mater. And I did that for a total of about 6 to 7 years. And I loved it. I loved being around the kids. And of course, I was very young at that time. So I guess I related to them very well. And I always pushed to get the best out of them in practice. I mean, by playing hard against them. And so even though they were JV players, um, I guess looking back on it, I have a way different coaching style from when I was 20 years old as opposed to now, being 46. Um, but from there, um, after 6 years of coaching JV, I felt like I was ready to take a varsity job, and there wasn't anything open at Harrison. So I went down the road to the school rival, West Lafayette, and they hired me, and I took over that varsity program for 10 years. So I coached there from 2001 to 2010. I think it was in '09 and 10 where we played Harrison both years in the sectional finals, and we beat them both years. And that's when I believe Doug Leslie, who was the principal at Harrison at the time, so he kind of gave me a phone call, and he was like, Bryan, we'd really like you to come over here back to Harrison and coach your alma mater. Would you be willing to sit down and talk with us? And so it was always kind of my dream to, like, I don't know if I would say I had like ill feelings towards Harrison for, not being able to make that jump. It's just that the opportunity wasn't there when I felt like I was ready to make the jump to varsity. So I totally understand and get that. But through my first few varsity years of coaching at West Lafayette, every time we played them, I had a chip on my shoulder, and I've definitely conveyed that to the players. Like, we got to go out there and we got to beat these guys. And, but I always had in the back of my head that Harrison was home, and I was really working for that opportunity to get back. And it was then in 2010 that, it became a reality. That first year, it was good to be back at my alma mater, but I knew I had a lot of work to do. So Harrison had always been known as probably the most, how would I say, like, they had the most talent of the teams here in our area. It was just, they could never take that hurdle or get over the hurdle of getting past either that regional or semi-state to get to that next, to overcome that. And so that was my goal. I mean, all along, what better way to, story to be written is to go back and coach your alma mater and to be able to have the chance to do that. And I tackled it head on. First thing was up that, I wanted to do is surround myself with a great coaching staff, because that's what it ultimately takes. And I felt like I did that. And then you have to have players buy in, and you have to establish a culture. And it takes time. You can't do that in just a year. But you can't just say it. It's gotta be in their actions. It's gotta be not only, daily or weekly, it'd be all year round. So you got to take the off season just as serious as you do the in-season stuff, and you got to prepare. And so it took some adjustment for some of the players to get used to that. So, and then your class came in. I knew that we had a really talented class come in, and so I knew it still might take another year or two before we really caught our stride. But I don't know. I from there on, you probably correct me. Like I said, I'm not very good at the stats. I know that, by your senior year, we went to state, and I know 2 years later we won state, but we had a run of about 4 or 5 years straight there. I think it was from your sophomore year. So about a 5-year stretch where I think we won sectionals and regionals every single year, or close to it. And we had a handful of semi-state appearances and then 2 state appearances which case we won state in 17.
Sounds like you really wanted to get back to Harrison, and you wanted to improve as a coach and find ways. How do you think that your coaching developed since you started off? It sounds like tactically you kind of really got into the game and developing players even in high school as just as a player, and then you were like, okay, I can really become a really good coach and maybe I can make something of this. How do you think you progress as a coach in that time span from like then to now even?
Well, and that's a great question. I I feel like I got a lot of peers. I've been doing this now for 27 years. Started when I was so really young. I feel like there's a chance to learn every single time there's a coach that I see either training with the team or if I go to a team camp, I'm very astute, or just even when I'm watching Champions League or EPL or whatever, I'm always looking for formations and warm-ups. And, I think that one of the keys to success as progressing as a coach is keeping everything fresh for your players. I think that I fell into a trap of becoming redundant in training and my method. And I think that's where obviously we had a great deal of talent graduate in between the years of 2013 and 2017. Maybe we haven't had as much talent, but I think that one, I kind of assumed that the culture that was built would just kind of roll over from year to year. And that was assumption, as a coach, at 46, I am still learning this thing, and I think that's the challenge and that's the key is to progression, is to make sure that you're always willing to learn. You're always willing to listen more than talk. And hopefully I benefit that and I'm able to carry some kind of knowledge over to our players and they learn from it.
Yeah, and I can definitely attest to the changing from even when I arrived my freshman year to when watching you coach through John's senior year. The level of yelling I think has decreased. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but I just I think you've gotten more comfortable and more calm. And I think once you've established that culture, I think the guys kind of bought in, especially, my senior year through the next few years. I think those guys really got it. But I do have a fond memory of a paper article actually about you. I think Nestor, my freshman year, tried to chip the goalkeeper and missed. And there's a picture of you pointing at him, yelling. And the caption in the paper is, Coach Clouse calmly talks to his players after. And I was like, no way.
That is such the opposite, right?
Yeah.
I think the words were, if you ever do that again, you're off the field, is probably more accurate.
I think that was right up the right lines. But I think that's something that, we always respected about you is that you were gonna give us the truth. And, we may not always like it, but we knew you were coming from a place where you just wanted the best for us and we wanted to win. We all wanted the same thing. And I think that's part of, what you've established there is that, communication and the relationships with your players that they can know what to expect from you.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much, man. That was very kind. I tell you what, it's, when you've coached as long as I have, and hopefully I have a great deal, a great many years left, as long as I enjoy doing it, I'm going to keep doing it. But, to me, times change, but honestly, players don't. That's my way of looking at it. Like I hear coaches sometimes like, well, the players are different nowadays. Well, yeah, no, not really. Not in my eyes. To me, it's the times, it's technology. It's how do you reach the kids today as opposed to 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. So the approach has got to be different. And if you don't progress as a coach to be able to reach your players, I think that's where maybe it was me being just younger, that my patience was a lot less, and maybe me having kids and myself and going through having kids and being a parent. I feel like that kind of subdued me a little bit, made me a little more calmer on the sidelines. There's still those times where I get all fired up And I think there's a proper time and a place. And honestly, I think it resonates and hits home with the players a lot more when I keep my cool. And then if I need to explode, then it's like, oh, hello, now we got to kick it in, as opposed to it becoming white noise. And, that's one of those things I think where I've progressed as a coach.
Do you think that your mindset changes from year to year? I know you said you don't want to be redundant in coaching style and that you have a different amount of talent each year. If you know that you have a really good class coming in or maybe a really bad class, how do you adjust maybe how you train or how you manage the players and manage expectations, I guess?
Well, that's a very good thing. Actually, it took me 27 years to do this, but I am currently my deadline is actually April 1st, so I can have a team meeting with my guys. But like I said, I feel like we've taken a couple of steps backwards from a lot of the success that we had. So I'm creating a manual, if you will, for the players, JV and varsity, an understanding of what my expectations are and laying them out. Now, I don't expect my players to read this front to back, especially high school age, and do homework. But what we will do is I'm going to take 10 minutes out of a training session to make sure I cover this topic and that topic. And they're going to be responsible and accountable for knowing X, Y, and Z before they get to practice, of course, but it won't be anything that's too hard. The thing of it is I feel like it's in black and white. I'm laying these things out to the players so that they know what the expectation is. I feel like somewhere along the lines in the last few years that they quite didn't know what those expectations were. I knew what they were. I think that the coaches, my assistant coaches knew what they were, but because we had so much success, it was just kind of like, well, why aren't we doing this? Or why aren't we doing that? And it just kind of became laissez-faire a little bit. And so I'm really going to tighten up this year. And I've already had I had an exit meeting at the end of last year, letting them know that this was going to occur. And so anyway, I'm going to, I think, to hit home too on your question, I think a good coach, dependent upon what comes in, you always adapt to the personnel that comes in. I think I guess it's just my opinion, but I think if you're a coach that says, I'm going to run a 4-4-2, and this is how we're going to play direct and over the top, or we're going to run a 4-3-3 and play over the top, and we're going to press. If you don't have the personnel to do that, then you're, in my opinion, shooting yourself in the foot. So what I pride myself on is being flexible and also banking on listening to my assistant coaches. I love getting input from the coaches. Ultimately, it's my decision. But I love to adapt our formations, our style of play to the personnel that we have. I always like to go into a season being able to run 2 formations. I think it took Matthew's senior year for me to realize when we didn't get over that hurdle and we lost in the state championship that we need to be able to adjust. Now, some would argue great teams, you don't have to adjust if you're a great team. Well, I think what makes you great is that you're able to do those adjustments, minor, because you want to dictate tempo and pace and style to the other team. But all in all, I think it's good to have that versatility. So, yeah.
Yeah. So it sounds like you're getting back to your roots a little bit. I remember some of the some of the Clouse rules, boots on the chalk, 15 minutes early, never take your shin guards off for the game. I still got those drilled up here. Think, communicate, hustle, all that stuff.
You got it, man.
Oh yeah. Drilled into my head.
That's the second page of the manual.
Right there. I'll help you write it. I'll be a co-author.
Oh, awesome. I gotta make sure that the Harrison fight song is thrown in there too. I'm gonna call on some freshman the very first day see if put him on the spot.
I think that freshman was Jack Newton, my freshman year, I think, if I'm right. But you mentioned about, adapting to the classes that you kind of get in, and I think what you've started to do is reach the audience or your players before they actually get to high school. So you started the BC Raider Elites. Do you want to kind of talk about that and what you're kind of doing for the community?
Yeah, so I started this about 3 years ago, just as a developmental program. I didn't feel like the players that were coming in were receiving, they could be receiving more instruction on how to accomplish a lot of technical things on the field, and especially or particularly with pressure. I don't know, you can set up cones and you can do all the drills you want to, and you can look really good without any pressure, but adding pressure and being able to make good decisions, having that calmness on the ball, that was where I felt like we really needed to grow our players, our incoming players. So that way, when they reach the high school level, they're more technically sound and they're able to deal with the pressure. So that way we can spend a lot more time during training sessions in high school on tactics. I feel like that's where the upper programs of the state, because they have a lot more clubs in the Indy area, in the Fort Wayne area, the reason why they're so strong is they have very technically sound players that know how to play under pressure and maintain possession of the ball. And we just simply didn't have that. We had to work our rears off for everything to get every ounce out of our players to just compete with those upper schools. So the reason why I started the program was so that I could give young players that experience. And I didn't want to just honestly stop with, I knew we were going to benefit as a Harrison program, but I want our area to get better in soccer. I figured, that'll make rivalries that all the better. I wanted to see girls involved with the boys. There's no gender specific really groups. I intermix everybody. I try to keep age levels, like 3rd grade to 5th grade, and then 6th to 8th. So we don't have a little person getting trampled out there by a bigger person, but it seems to be going really well. And I think, when this thing all started, I had about 30 or 40 trainees. I'm up to, I regularly have 50 in a week, but I have over 100 in my app that register for trainings. So it's really taken off. I put on mini camps throughout the Lafayette, West Lafayette area. And, winter camp, I usually have about 40 to 50 kids. And then my summer camp is typically around 100. So getting really good numbers. And what's great is I get support from the local club and the local rec programs, and we work together. So it's great that we have that sense of community, and we're really bringing soccer together in the area. I think we're working together, and that's what we need to do. So
I think it's really cool because I've always heard from coaches and just seen things where if you develop the technical skills at a young age, that's where a lot of the progress is made. And then you're able to work once you develop physically and you can look at the tactics side of things, and it all kind of comes together. And then once you reach like a certain age, the technical part doesn't come in as quickly necessarily. You can obviously still get better, but I think it's a really cool aspect to this.
Yeah. And it's funny you say that, Noah. I was talking to my wife the other day. I don't know why I haven't done this. But to even advertise what I do, I need to make it mandatory that I take like a 3 to 4 minute clip video of anybody coming in and doing their first session with me. And then after a whole 5 months in the offseason, I usually go November through March, and then I shut it down for spring season, summer, and fall. And then I pick back up other than my camps that I do. And the transformation of some of these young players is awesome. It is just awesome to see. And I mean, that's why I do this. It's the relationships that I have with the kids at the high school level and the interaction I have with them. And the same goes with these developmental kids. But I mean, I tell you what, there's nothing more rewarding as a coach than to see a player just get so excited about making a play or doing this or that, or to have mom and dad send me an email and say, little Johnny is having the best season ever, and they can't say how much they enjoyed their training with you, Coach Clouse. And that's just what really resonates with me, and that's what makes this all worth it.
So speaking of young players, is there any aspiration to watch a little Charlie Clouse run in the midfield with you at the helm? Is that the goal?
If he stays with it, I certainly would love to be there when that happens. I can tell you this, he started going to training. I'm taking I say I only have third to fifth grade. I fudge on him. He's a first grader, and he's going in and playing with these guys. And I'm pretty tough on him, but I'll tell you what, the 3-minute car ride over to the facility and the 3-minute car ride home, and just seeing his face get so excited about the game, it is so fun for me. And I hope that he continues to love it so that we have that together. I know if he doesn't want to do it, I'm not going to force him to, but it truly is a special thing.
Do you think there's skills in particular that make somebody a good coach, or something that you would suggest for them to develop as a coach? Like you said adaptability earlier, but do you think like maybe other traits would make a really good coach, or maybe a wannabe coach could have?
Yeah. So this is what I would say. Like when I do any coaching clinic, especially at the U10, U12 level, and I do that with the rec programs. I'll do another couple of them this spring. I try to emphasize to coaches, and I get this really honestly from my PE teaching background, even though I don't do PE anymore, is high volume of reps. Like if kids are standing in lines, it makes me want to pull my hair out. So I tell coaches, like any coach that talks to me, like, don't have them line up in one big line. We all see it, right? We'll go out, we'll drive by the field, and you'll see the coach standing there with a line 10 players deep, and they probably get a total of 3 shots each, and they waste 30 minutes of practice. It drives me nuts. So I would encourage coaches to figure out or manipulate. There is so many drills that are out there. I tell you what, I go on Google all the time, or YouTube, and I steal half my stuff. But what I'll do is I'll modify it, and I'll make sure that I'm able to incorporate a lot more reps, or maybe incorporate a up back through, something that we do a lot at the high school level. We try to ingrain in our players any kind of pattern play, just high volume of reps. And the other thing then too is, as a coach, if I had any advice to give another coach, it would be communicate with your players, communicate with your parents. If you don't establish the communication, then I mean, it's just one of those things where I feel like you gain a player's trust, you gain the parents' trust, you build that relationship. If you don't have the relationship and you don't have the culture, you can have all the talented players you want, but I think ultimately in the end, chances are you're not going to win anything. So that's my opinion.
Yeah. So maybe the last question before we let you go. Is there one memory that sticks out in your mind from my class? Anything that you haven't forgotten about us yet?
Absolutely. There's two. Okay. Well, one is obviously, I mean, the state championship game. Just, I don't feel like it was ever like a satisfaction feeling like, oh, well, we got there, because it just made you more hungry after it. And I felt bad because but the one thing that I take away is you guys were the ones that kind of created that culture, right? When you came in. So to me, like when I think of your class, I'm sitting there thinking like, I compare everybody to that class. Like, but the one game, the one instant, the one thing that I always remember is the game where Jacob Spahn, we put him on a lockdown defender one-on-one against Fishers. There's Fishers. And I think they had a D1 commit going to Ohio State. And Jacob had not played, I don't think he had started one game all year long. And we were like, we think we wanted to man mark this dude. And Jacob, you were there. I think, are we allowed to say this on I think he called him sweet cheeks all game long or whatever. He got in his head and he just bothered him the whole game long for 80 minutes. And I think everybody in the state thought that Fishers was going to house us. I thought that they were going to just roll us and waltz right into the semi-state. And we took him to overtime, and that's when we put in Cole Boyer, the super sub. He had the whitest uniform off of the bench. We throw him on there in an OT, and he scored with, I think, 90 seconds left in the game or under a minute. Was it a minute? What was it?
I think it was a little longer than that because we had to hold on for dear life there in the back. I remember you put Jeremy Duell back in the game, and he comes back in. He's like, "We're going to a 5-back." I was like, "All right, who's the 5th person in the back?" He goes, "We're going to a 5-back." I said, "Duell, who is the last person in this back line?" He's like, "Oh, it's so-and-so." I'm like, and yeah, but I always remember that one too, playing in the mud puddles. And then Spahn just playing the game of his life. I remember he looks over to the bench and he's like, "I need one." I said, "Spahn." I looked at the clock. I was like, "We got 7 minutes left in this first half." I was like, "You're not going out of this game." And I think you sent a sub to the line, and I was like, "Put them back on the bench. Like, we need Spahn in this game."
It was fun times. It was a lot of fun. And, I always remember those. And I'll be honest, as I get older, you cherish those memories even more. And I'll be honest, I don't look at them a lot, but there's a lot of pictures that this guy has. And I look back probably once every year at just all the players, at some point in time, I've got a basket of newspaper clippings and stuff. It's just good to reminisce and see. And every once in a while, I'll text a player or something like that just because it brings back a good memory.
Yeah, of course.
Do you have any special memory of Roop in particular? Anything embarrassing, maybe? Anything we can add?
I don't. I remember doing some ice bucket challenges back in the day, and like nothing really sketchy or racy that I could share. There was some stuff that went on at team camp, but I'm probably better off not knowing exactly what went on. So yeah, nothing juicy I could really share with you. I'm sorry.
Had to try.
They kept it out of my hands, man. They did a good job of keeping everything top secret.
Well, we really appreciate you coming on and giving us your time. I know the COVID season is kind of weird, and we hope that you have a regular season and find success coming up here.
Well, thanks a lot, boys. It's been a lot of fun, and it's so awesome to see you guys, doing this. And I know you guys had a lot of playing time at Manchester and with Coach Corey. And I'm very fortunate to be on with you. I appreciate you guys reaching out to me, and I wish you guys all the best.
Hey guys, thanks for joining us for this episode.
As there's a drive in a deep left field by Castellanos, it will be a home run. And so that'll make it a 4-0 ball game.
Don't forget, you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and anywhere you get your podcasts. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, and comment down below. Thanks, guys.
Who you got, Roopie? No, Illinois, of course. That's right, man. Absolutely. Hey, at least they're the same colors.
Exactly. all my stuff still works from high school.